All right, the red light with the word live on it tells us that we are streaming live right now, right here. Hey, Kristen Brown, how are you, my friend?
Oh, Joseph, it's so good to be here with you. I feel like it's been too long.
Too long, yep. Yeah, we've, for various reasons, haven't been able to do it every single week, but we are back together now, and so we're going to make the most of it. For those that don't know, normally Stevo Hayes would be joining us in the Modern Day Alchemist, and he's taking care of his wife today on her birthday. So happy birthday to Stevo's wife.
Happy
And good
birthday.
job, Stevo, for making your wife number one priority. We're streaming live right now on several different platforms via StreamYard, including the Wisdom app where Kristen and I first became friends quite a while ago. And I mean, it's just amazing to me how technology can bring people together and create friendships that are for reals, baby, for reals.
For reals, baby.
Yeah. Chris and I actually got to see each other in person not long ago when she and her husband were on a trip. And so this is not just virtual friendship. This is the real thing.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So the Modern Day Alchemist started a while ago, and this is episode number 33 now. And it's been a really wonderful journey just for me personally and personal enrichment and the bonds that we're making with our friends here. And hopefully, our intention is, of course, to bring something into the discussion that will be helpful to those who tune in. And I think today is, as always, a very important topic for people to consider. And I think it's not necessarily something that's obvious until you start to look at it. And then you're like, oh yeah, why didn't I see that before? And that is what I called the seasons and the cycles of life. And so, it's natural for us to think of seasons, well, depending on where you live, think of seasons in terms of fall, winter, and spring and summer. And that just happens. And we think, that's what it's all about. That's what the way the world works. But then when things are happening in our own lives, and so I'll just give an example. There have been times, Kristen, in my life where I couldn't keep up with the live downloads I was getting. The creativity's flowing. I just I'm going great guns. Every cylinder is firing, and I'm like, I'm invincible. And then for reasons that I may or may not even see, suddenly I'm like, I can't think of anything. I can't come up with anything. I'm stuck. It's like the source has been cut off or restricted. And I'm like, what happened? Right? And I know you and I have talked enough to know that is something that happens to all of us. And it's happened to you as well, even in your creative process. And so I think it'll be fun for us to get into that idea of seasons and cycles of life, about how they are not only natural, but what we can learn through those and learn about ourselves and how to navigate through that, rather than just beat ourselves up in this culture that says we're always supposed to be producing, always supposed to be in harvest season, which even the land tells us that cannot be true. But before we dive into that, Kristen, introduce yourself to those who haven't met you before and let them know what you're up to and how they can connect with you outside of this platform.
Okay. My name is Kristen Brown. I'm a spiritual and empowerment healer, author, and mentor. And I help people reset their energetic vibration by going within and discovering the false and limiting beliefs that are keeping them stuck, so that they can advance to the next levels of their life.
That's right. And you have written 2 books, one of which is now an international bestseller on Amazon. So show off the great stuff here.
Both of them.
Yeah.
This one's the international bestseller. It's The Recovering People Pleaser. I published this in April of 2023, and it is now, it was actually in a matter of hours, an international #1 bestseller. And I'm getting so much great feedback. And I'm even getting people out of the blue reaching out to me who didn't find me on any social media platform. They just Googled people pleasing and they found my book and they reached out for coaching. So that's been really exciting, because these are people that, really want to take their healing and growing to the next step. And I just feel so honored that I wrote a book that is not on the New York Times bestseller list, but people are like, this resonates with me, and I want to reach out to you because I feel like you see me and I haven't been seen and understood like this. And so they want a little bit of help. So that's been the latest thing. And it's very humbling. It's very exciting, to feel that and to watch that happen.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And, you and I have talked at length about just being committed to our process, committed to our effort, committed to being authentic and doing, whatever it is that we have control over, which is really within. And then whatever the outcomes are, we got to release those into the hands of God, source, universe, nature, whatever process is out there. And here you are in real life example. You put your effort into your book, not just your effort, but your heart, your soul, your emotion, time, energy, effort, everything you poured into a book and birthed it, having no idea what the outcome could be or might be. And I'm sure you had some ideas of what you hoped it could be, but here you are now reaping the fruits, right, of the seeds that you've planted and on the soil that you tilled and all of the work that it went into producing the book. So such a great real life example of how life works that way, right?
And unexpected. I didn't, I wrote this book from my heart, like, and I was just like, this can help one person. That's awesome. And it's helping more. And my hopeful outcome was, yes, that would happen. But I honestly didn't think people would be reaching out to me from just grabbing the book, not seeing me on social platforms and things like that. I didn't expect that. And so it is kind of this season of harvest, but I've also been in the season of dormancy before as well. And during that season, it's really easy for my brain to start trying to sabotage me and to tell me that there's something wrong with me and I should be creating or being at least creative every single day, and words should just flow and everything, life should be glorious.
Yes.
But I've learned that, and you have such beautiful metaphors for this, but I have learned that in those moments of dormancy, that they are so purposeful. And so I've learned to accept what is in that moment, because the creativity does indeed come from our source. That's our creative side comes, because it's unlimited. Creativity is unlimited. And it comes from our creative source. And sometimes source knows that I need to rest. Sometimes source just goes, there's some other things you need to work on. I'm going to shut that down a little bit and have you work over there. And I'm not saying that God is, I don't mean that in a way that, God pulls the strings and is the puppet master of my life. I don't mean it like that. I just mean that my own internal higher self knows that you need to stop for a minute. Because I did reach that dormant stage after publishing my book, or not publishing it, finished writing it. And then when it went into the publishing process, and I was just like flatlined. And of course it starts to worry me as a content creator. I was like, oh my gosh, something's wrong with me. And then I said, how about if you just accept this for right now? Because what's happened in your past, Kristen, is you've had these moments in other arenas, like moments of sadness or depression, and they always pass. So how about you just let this be what it is, stay present with your life, do what you need. Like my talk last night on wisdom was, what do you need? No, really, what do you need?
Yeah.
And then I realized that, wow, this moment of dormancy is because I'm tired, or I'm overtaxed, or I have stress, or I have fear, or I have something that's going on that needs to be addressed first.
Yeah. And sometimes those things aren't obvious, and you've illustrated so well the natural narrative, and I've felt this myself, that when things seem to go into this dormant phase and I don't readily understand why, that I do have that same initial response that you did, like something's wrong with me. Mm-hmm. And I start thinking, what do I need to fix? What's broken? But you said also very, very well that sometimes, in fact, many times, it is a very purposeful for something that you need. And maybe what we don't need to do all the time is always be producing. In other words, we live in this culture that it's very easy to adopt a mentality that the expectation is that we're always producing, we're always on our A game, we're always in flow, we're always in the harvest season. And as I've talked to you before about growing up with a dad who loved to farm, he made it very clear, that there is a harvest season, but there also, all of the other seasons are purposeful, even winter, when there's nothing he could do but just wait for the ground to unfreeze. And as he said in his own words, he had to allow God to do what only God could do with that seed that's basically dead underground. And there's nothing my father could do but wait, right? And wait he could hone his farming equipment. He could troubleshoot. He could fix things that were broken, but there's nothing he could do with the seed or the ground until the timing was right. And so I just love this conversation, this reminder that just because we're not on the top of our game every day, every moment, every hour, that we're not always producing, quote unquote, producing, not only is that normal, but it actually may be, as you said, purposeful. It's for our benefit to go through the ebbs and flows that are inevitable in this world that we live.
Right. And I think anytime we fight reality, we suffer. Right. And that suffering is the one thing that really set me on my really intense healing path 10, 12 years ago, because I didn't want to suffer anymore. I just wanted peace. But in that peace, I needed to accept the reality of certain things in that healing. I needed to accept the reality of certain areas in my life, because that fighting and arguing with reality was keeping me in the suffering. So once I accepted that this is just what is.
You're muted.
Thank you. And knowing that there is seasons and cycles to life, and really looking back and seeing it all over my life. And that's one of the beauties of age, is that we do have that time and experience to draw back upon and look back and say, every time it felt like nothing was happening, there was something happening. And it's resting in that, which, as a young 20-year-old, seeking after things and wanting it all, we don't think that yet. And we fight that stuff until we don't. But looking back now, I can say, man, every cycle was so purposeful. And it also made me want to really drink up when things were great.
Yes.
And really just relish in it, because, and I don't mean this derogatorily, but there's, it's a season and a cycle. I'm in a season of this right now. So I'm just going to really sit in this and enjoy it, kind of like a rainy day in Arizona. I really want to be outside driving in the rain, because we don't get it a lot. So I want to soak it up and really enjoy the beauty of this moment for the times that it's 185 degrees out. And I can, remember, guess what's going to happen in a couple months? It's going to be cool again, right? So I think that's where faith comes in. And faith is so helpful on our journey, because the more we have it, we know we can rest and not fight life so much.
Yeah. You're talking really bringing up a good point about the wisdom of being able to look in the rearview mirror and see that this isn't the first time, right? There's patterns and cycles and seasons that have happened throughout your life, whether it's your career, your relationships, your own personal growth, and that is really the natural progression, and that there is a purpose for every season. And that draws me right to I think it was the song by the Byrds that's actually based on scripture: to everything, turn, there is a season, time to reap and time to sow. And actually, you have to do those in reverse order. You got to sow before you can reap. And it's just those reminders as we can look back into the past that, as you said, the bad times, we didn't get stuck there. And the good times, we didn't get to stay there. So to be grateful for the good times, right? And also to be grateful that the bad times aren't permanent. And that gives us perspective. Wisdom is often just perspective that then we can apply to the current situation that we're in.
Some of the most profound spiritual teachings are just so simple. They're just a little sentence or a little statement. They're just a little something. And one of those is, this too shall pass.
Right.
And, you tell that to someone that's in the midst of something gnarly, and they're going to bring out their boxing gloves. No, It's not. This is never going to go away.
Yeah.
And, yes, it does. This will pass. I've been in some hard situations where people were incredibly sick and dying, or someone had just been killed dramatically, or there was a divorce, or my child was hurting over something emotional, or, And I can fight that and try to fix it and try to muscle my way through it, but I'm likely to muddy the waters and make it worse. Then when I can sit in the reality of it and allow it to be what it is right now. And then then I can be at peace. And I feel like when I'm at peace with something, doesn't mean I like it, everybody. There's things so much in my life that I went through that, no, I hated every minute of it. I never liked it. I've had 3 family members die from cancer. That is not pretty. I've had my best friend and her daughter killed by a drunk driver. That is not pretty. I was homeless, with 3 children in tow after the, recklessness of my second husband. And that was not pretty. But I could fight that, or I could say, this is right now. And I will tell you that after the tsunami, my tsunami ex is what I call my second husband. That was because a tsunami wiped through my life. I fought that freaking hard because I was 42 years old. I'd never missed a bill. I've worked since I was 15, had an 841 credit rating, and I was moving back in with my parents. Where's my solitude? Where's my privacy? Where's the control over my children and the parenting? And I mean, I was kicking and screaming. I ended up being there for 5 years. And I will tell you, I kicked and screamed for probably 2 in my head, not to them.
Sure.
Because on the flip side of that, I was extremely grateful. But I also started to change the narrative. My mom had cancer at the time. She had it for a total of 10 years. I couldn't tell you how far into it she was, maybe 5 or 6 at this point. But no, 5, I guess. Right. And so she, I was thinking, I have this time to live within the same roof with my mother, keep a watchful eye on her, because she's loved her so much, still do. And I wanted to focus on that rather than, why don't I have my own home? How dare another thing happen? All these horrible things. I started to slowly change my narrative and to love, because I remember pulling up to that house and I just want to disclaim it was a beautiful exterior and interior, meaning heart and soul of this home. Like, this is a beautiful place that anybody would want to live. I'm talking about the people in it. Okay.
Sure. Yep.
Not to mention the size of it, and we fit and, all the things. But I just remember driving up to that house and just like a little brat, just being like, and just being so mad that this was my reality.
Yeah.
And at some point I said, girl, you are beating yourself up. You are beating up life. This is so purposeful. Let it be what it is. And then I started to change that narrative and start to really, really love and accept and appreciate and enjoy. And, this is the funniest thing. The irony is that my kids say those 5 years were some of the best years of their life.
Wow. Yeah.
Living at my mom's house. Yeah.
Right. That's such a great reminder that I can't remember who said this, but that you can't always connect the dots looking forward, but it is in the rearview mirror that you see how the purpose played out. So really, there really is this piece of faith that says, okay, I can't see right now, I can't see the big picture, but can I believe that it is purposeful, that there is a benefit, right? And it might not be what I expected. In fact, most of our frustration, I believe, is unmet expectations. We have a way in our mind, we think it should be at a certain time in a certain way. And when it doesn't meet our expectations, well, then we're frustrated, we're disappointed, and our cameras won't focus.
For those watching us right now, or not watching us, I'm dipping out of the screen because my camera's been acting funny lately and I'm really out of focus. So I hope it's not distracting you, Joseph, because I'm trying to get it back into focus. It's terrible.
Go ahead and try the lens thing that we put it cover to the lens and see if that'll reset.
Yeah, let me try this again.
Doesn't always work. For those that are listening on audio only, we're doing a test, to focus the cameras, and there you go. And you see, it didn't last forever. It too shall pass. Right?
So what I really want to highlight is that you were talking about the dots will connect. Amen. It's we don't know. I call it think about this, thinking about a beautiful wall, a mosaic on a wall.
Yeah.
And it's like this gorgeous picture, or even just a painting. But when you're up close to it, you might just see black. That's all you see is this black. But when you pull back from the painting. It's like this beautiful thing, this tapestry, whatever it might be. And that little tiny black right there was the center of a sunflower or
Mm,
something like that, right? We
right.
just
Yeah.
can't see the whole picture. And that's where faith comes in. And this is why God, source, universe has been so integral on my path, because this idea and feeling and knowing of faith for me has really helped me through some of the seasons, the toughest times, is knowing that it's all purposeful somehow, some way. And my job is to relax and to stay in connection with my source so that I can be guided. And I
Yeah.
say this right now, people might be thinking, oh, Kristen's got it all together. Look at her. She doesn't have a, no,
Yeah.
no, no. I mean, there's times where I'm like, I'm just going to bed. I'm just going to go to bed. I'm done with this day. I've done these things and sometimes they still happen, but I really try to connect with what I know to be true, because that truth sees me through. And I always tell people, if you're my friend, I will tell people, if I'm in a funk, you talk spirituality and manifestation and energy to me, you will pull me out of my funk faster than anything.
Mm,
Logic doesn't work, but guiding me back to my source, guiding me back to energy, guiding me back to love, that works with me probably 100% of the time.
wow. Yeah. Such a great reminder. Yeah. Just, for those who may tune in and think, oh, it's easy for you guys to say because, your life's great and everything's you got it all together. I was just thinking this morning in preparation for this talk, I woke up this morning and the dog had peed and pooped on the floor and the toilet
Yay.
was clogged and,
Awesome.
and I was thinking of all the bills that are due. I mean, life happens in every direction at all times, and how important it is, as we're talking about, two things that came up just in that last segment. One is reconnecting to source and believing, that sometimes I feel disconnected, but that's my perception. The connection is there. I just got to refocus. Am I focused on all of the problems and all the issues and all the challenges and all the, or even focused on my feelings of I'm not enough and I can't do this and when's this ever going to be over? Whatever those feelings are, or right, or am I willing to not to deny those feelings, but to say, well, in addition to all that, there is proof in my past, right, and in the faith that I carry that this not only this will pass, but it will be purposeful if I'm willing to say, okay, I don't understand it, but I trust the process, as I like to say, and the processor who's working within me and is far more concerned about my character development and my person than my productivity, right? And so I think there's this really important reminder in this conversation that our lives aren't measured by productivity. That's a false analytic to say if life is purposeful, meaningful, if it's, if you're growing, it isn't necessarily what you've produced by the end of the day. Now, oftentimes production is a result of being in flow and having the creativity flow with you, through you. But I'm just saying that the danger is thinking that in the seasons where I'm not producing and I'm not breaking through and I'm feeling like I'm not in flow and I feel like I'm disconnected, that doesn't make me less important, less valuable, less purposeful, or that season of life even less valuable or less purposeful. It's just a season, right, that has a purpose that I can't see until it's in the rearview mirror, and that might be soon, or it might be a longer range view, as you were saying.
Yes, yes. There's two things that I want to bring up. And one is that when I started to ask myself this one particular question, that in my experience, I'm not saying it's going to be everybody's experience because I don't know, but that one question moved me through the seasons that I was not fond of faster.
Mm,
And that question is, what am I supposed to be learning?
yes.
So being in a understanding that why we are here is because life is a classroom. It is for our souls to learn and to grow and to expand. That's what we're here for. And that fits well into my experience. Other people may not buy into that or think that's the truth, and that's fine because I'm not here to convince anybody of anything. But based on my connections and my downloads and things like that I get, I really do believe that to be true. So I started to practice that and say, okay, what am I supposed to be learning? Even when it was something that somebody else was doing that was deplorable. Because the first thing we want to do is point that finger out, right? And say, hey, you're doing this thing, stop doing this thing. Well, if it's something that's repeating in my life, I have noticed this 100% of the time, that when I go within and I start to shift something about me, that situation, it organically changes because I have now shifted the energy that I'm bringing to that situation. Because we hear about manifestation a lot in the means of law of attraction, and we want to get things, but our energy is constantly manifesting. It's constantly drawing things to us. So with that knowledge, I started to say, how can I upgrade my energy in this situation, even if somebody else was being yucky? And every time that I have done that for myself, I've gotten a different experience, because we can't change other people. We can't fix other people. And we know that they have certain things going on, and we can see it, we know because we're in close relationships with these people. We're like, oh, there they go again, doing that thing that they always do. So I can fight the reality of that thing and show up in my lower self, my ego self, my argumentative self, my trying to fix things self, whatever it might be. Or I can say, how can I upgrade my energy? How can I stay in the loving essence? In a space of love. Now, I'm not talking, you guys, I'm a person who's really huge about not being abused. So I'm not talking about we're accepting abuse by any means. I will never be about that. But I'm saying, how can I upgrade myself in a way that can bring a different energy to what I'm dealing with?
Yeah. Boy, the questions are so important, right? You said just by asking yourself a question, you can change and shift your understanding of what you're going through and give it purpose. I think that's so good. And the questions aren't complicated. What can I learn? How can I grow? What is the benefit or the purpose? And sometimes the answers come quickly, and sometimes it takes time. It's one of those ask and keep on asking situations. But what I've experienced too, Kristen, is that oftentimes I'll come to a place where I'm in this dormant season and I feel like I can't break through, and I'm not producing, and where's the creativity, and why did how did I get here? All those, the self-critic kicks in, right? That's telling me that I must be doing something wrong, or I must not be doing something right. And sometimes there are certainly places where I can make self-corrections. But what I have experienced even in the last few weeks is this idea of giving myself grace and receiving the grace from God, right? I talk a lot about gratitude and grace are essential to life. Gratitude, grace, and generosity, I think, are the three G's that really help us through every day and make life better. But what I wasn't connecting is that in my moments of self-critique and self-loathing and self-blame, I wasn't allowing myself to give myself grace and or receive it, right? Even though I have no problem giving grace to others, I'm eager to do that. I didn't see clearly that I was holding back that grace for me, that whatever the mistakes that I made, the decisions that I wish I could have undone, whatever the regrets and the remorse that I was carrying with, I needed, right? And this was the value of this dormant season. I needed to stop and give myself and receive the grace that I was so freely and willing to give others.
Oh, amen. And I also want to add to this, because I'm pretty good at self-coaching, and I'm pretty good at, I just took my glasses off and I cannot see you at all. So I'm going to put them back on. I got a whole technical issue going on over here, you guys. You just have to deal.
This is real life, baby. Real life.
Real life.
Yeah.
There are times when we seem to not be able to get ourselves out of a funk. And this is why I think it's so important to surround ourselves with people who actually, and I'm doing air quotes, see us. Because call a member of your fan club. Right. Call one of your people that go, oh no, brother, sister, I'm not going to let you see yourself that way. Not on my watch. Because sometimes we do. This makes me want to tear up, because that's such a human place to be,
Sure.
where we're like, I just don't know. I don't have a shred of confidence right now. I think I just suck, or there's something really wrong with
Yeah.
me. And even if we've been confident for 10 months and then all of a sudden one stupid hour, we're like, and then if we can't get out of it, call a member of your fan club, call somebody that can speak faith into you, that's not going to fall into because there are people that are going to fall into that with you. Oh yeah, well that really sucks. And yeah, I can see why you're upset. You should stay upset,
Right.
this whole thing. But that never serves me. I remember a point in my life, Joseph, where I wouldn't call people that were going to give me pity. Validation, yes, but pity, no. Because pity is low vibe, and it kept it like I'd hang up from them or leave their presence feeling not any better.
Yeah, just perpetuate the problem. Yeah.
It did. But when people are like, okay, validating means like, yeah, I see why that sucks. I understand, but here's what I know about you, or here's what I know about life, or here's what I know about God. When that comes to me, I am all ears. I am wide open, and I'm like, okay, good. So, and I know that we all have those people in our life. We may only have one, and that person may be busy, but that person loves you, because if they see you the way they see you, then this is a person that likely has an open heart and an open mind, and they will make the time for you, but we have to be willing to ask.
Right.
And we were talking about that last night on a
Yeah.
talk, right? We
So
have to be
important.
willing to ask.
Right. Yeah. Thankfully, in the down times that I've had people, including you, that will just say, "Hey, something's up. Everything okay? Do you want to talk?" And there's part of me that, the pride and the male ego and the self-sufficient guy that says, "Oh, I'm fine," when I'm not, or "Thank you, but I'm not really going to respond." And that's why your talk on wisdom last night was so timely. What do you need? No, really, is an invitation, right? An invitation for people who care about you to say, "Hey, I might not have the answer, but what I do know is I know you, and I know you can handle this, and I know that you will get through it. And sometimes you just need someone who knows you well enough, and sometimes can tell you what you can't tell yourself, or what you can't believe about yourself in a moment." I had people that would say, "Hey, Joe, you in your down times are still way more productive than a lot of people in their high vibe." And right, so give yourself some grace, right? Just the reminder that grace goes both ways. You can give it and receive it, to yourself, for yourself, from God, from others. So many different connections that can help reset that negative mindset that might keep you stuck there longer than you need to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I just had a thought, and I was like, ooh, this just in. And then it escaped my mind. What was it about? I think it was about in those down times. Let me try to recall this thought. I believe it was about in those down times to really just know that no one's dying.
Mm.
Nothing's happening right now. Right. But our higher self, our psyche knows when we need to take a break. It knows, and it
Yes.
will cut off that. The brain will protect us in that way to slow things down or to cut us off from things, because there is some tending to our inner world that is likely required.
Yes.
Because I know when my inner world is jacked up, my creativity does not flow. And it could just be anger at somebody, or frustration or something. And I know that will cut me off. And being someone who's public spoke now for quite some time, whatever you want to wear that,
Easy
for
for you to say.
quite some time, yeah. And 500 videos plus on YouTube, and a shit ton of talks on wisdom. These type of things, I can muscle my way through stuff, right? I can, but that's not the space I like to be in. I want to be in that energy, that flow, that feeling. And if that's just not happening, how about not producing? How about it just being okay? Because a lot of times we're muscling through because there's a belief attached to it. What we're getting, there's some type of validation, some type of thing that is probably derived of the ego that, yeah, we can muscle through, but it's not going to get us the rewards that we think because it's not coming from the right vibration. And then that could even actually send us down a whole other path because we're not getting the results that our ego wanted to get.
Right.
And now we're even more jacked up. So how about we just relax? I have to consistently tell myself, because I do, my God, sometimes, Joseph, I have like 10 video topics that come in my head at once. And I'm just driving to the gym and I'm like, oh, that's good. That's good. Right. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then there's none. Right. And so in those moments, I really try to ask myself every time I'm about to record, do you really feel like recording right now? Do you feel inspired to record now? Or do you feel like you have to because you want the algorithms to pick up the shit on your channel? Right.
Yeah.
And if that's my answer, I'm in the wrong vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes my ego pushes me pretty hard. It's like, you need to do it.
Right.
You need to do it no matter what. And I have to consciously say to myself, it's okay to relax. It's okay to do nothing. Nothing's going to happen. In fact, me returning back to my optimal energy is better than any amount of forced content I could ever create.
Right. Yeah, boy, that's perfect timing. This morning, I listened to Growth Day Live or Growth Day app with Brendan Burchard, and he was saying exactly what you're saying. Great synchronicity here in terms of timing. He's saying, oftentimes when people get to a place where they feel burned out, worn out, tired, then they go into self-judgment. Like we talked about, what's wrong with me? And he said, what if that's exactly the way we're wired? What if that's exactly what you need? It's your body, it's your system, it's your everything. The way you're wired is saying you have been pushing hard, you have expended a certain amount of energy, something has happened, either that you've depleted your resources, right? Your internal energy is depleted, or something has happened to you that has changed your focus or derailed whatever momentum that you had. And he said, keep in mind that taking time out or taking time off to rest and rejuvenate and replenish and and reset, all those great things are absolutely exactly what you need, right?
Yes.
Don't load those things or resist them. Embrace them as a sign. It's a sign that it's time for your system to stop on the production end, on the harvest, and to let the land, right, rest so that you can put the nutrients back into the soil. And you and I have talked a little bit about, what my dad taught me back in Montana. He was a hay farmer, and there was sections of the field during certain years that just there's nothing was planted. It's just the weeds were there. And I'm like, Dad, why didn't you plant stuff there? If the profit's based on how much hay you produce, why aren't you planting hay there? And he taught me what's called fallow ground. He said, if I harvest in the same ground every year after year, it depletes all the nutrients from the soil, and the actual hay that comes up will be sick, it'll be weak, it'll be short.
Wow. Yes.
There won't be a good harvest, he said. So there are times when you have to let the field dormant. You just let it be replenished so that it will then be able to produce the great harvest that you want, but not this year. And I thought, wow, that's such a great reminder. The nature teaches these things, right? That the fallow seasons, the seasons when we're not producing, are an invitation to let the soil of our hearts and our minds and our emotions to reset, to rest, to be rejuvenated, to do the things that we need to nourish our soil, so that what we do produce is actually much healthier than if we're just always pushing, trying to get something out there.
2 weeks ago, I would say, I lose track of time, but like 2 weeks ago, I was reached out to by a woman to join a summit. And I read a speaking summit, and I read all the topics, and it's, I could give a talk on every single topic. And I was busy with other things and I didn't respond to it. And then I forgot about it. And she messaged back again. And she's like, hey, just reaching out, see if you're interested. I said, oh my gosh. I answered right away and said, I'm so sorry. I got a lot going on, blah, blah, blah. Let me know if you have any questions. And I read through the thing. I promised her I'd read through it. And by the end of the day, I was like, I haven't read through that. And I promised this lady, and I don't even know her, but I'm going to follow through because this is me. Right. So I read through it. I'm like, this really does sound fun. And it's only a 30-minute spot and it's interviewed, and God, this could be really fun. but I could just feel myself wanting to do this other stuff that I do typically for my business. And I had to really sit on this and sit back and go, is this something I really want to do? Like, sounds super fun, but can I fit this in right now?
Mm.
Because it's going to require other things, more time, more this, more that. And I was like, no, I responded back to her and I said, this is a beautiful opportunity and I really appreciate you thinking of me, but my bandwidth is too small right now. And I'm really going to have to pass on this. And there was a part of me that was like, that old people pleaser inside of me that was like, and I want to say it's probably about a 1 right now out of 10, but it was a little bit at that tiny, tiny, small cringe moment of, I'm going to upset her. She's going to be bummed out. She's feeling, that I didn't say yes to this thing. And I was like, I have got to take care of me, which leads me to another point that I wrote a while back here. I wrote one step at a time because we want to, eat the whole elephant in one sitting.
Right. Yes.
We want to build Rome in one day. We want everything now, which is only a construct of the ego anyway, because it's our false self wanting to feel validated by something from the outside world. Mm. So this idea of one step at a time, again, these tiny little statements that seem so trite, that seem so cliche, but yet they're so incredibly important. So allowing myself to just be in one step at a time. And sometimes that step is on the couch. Sometimes that step is taking a nap. Sometimes that step is just going for a drive and being by myself. Sometimes that step is busting it out, working 10 hours that day because I was just on fire, not even tired, right?
Yeah.
But I really try to manage my life one little tiny step at a time, because I can, much like many of us, can really want the results and the fruits and the harvest right now.
Yeah.
And it's always worked against me. I can be honest in saying that I cannot tell you a time that I have overworked and got any farther than the times that I didn't. And that's a really profound statement, because we do in this culture equate the amount of hours worked with success. And that's not always true if we're working against ourselves.
Yeah.
So I have seen times where I really just lay back on my raft on the river, and I flow and I do what feels right. And that, excuse me, is equally or even more equally serving to, wait, what am I trying to say here? The times that I have flowed has been more serving to me than the times that I have pushed. Mm. I see less, like you said, if you would seed all of the grounds all the time, you'd maybe see less of a harvest, because all that work went into a very little harvest, right?
Yeah.
But when we focus on just one thing at a time, we can really make that thing beautiful. And I know we're talking a lot about business right now. It's just where this conversation has gone.
Sure.
But I have heard top mentors in the world, couldn't tell you who, I don't remember who says what anymore, but they said, pick like something like the 3 things that you're good at or that you like and focus on them, period. So right now, I love making videos. That's what I focus on. I actually like writing newsletters. A lot of people think that's just Monday. I love it. So I write my newsletters and I do my coaching. That's my 3 things, right? And so if other things come up and they fit, that's fine. But instead of going, I got to be an Instagram star and I got to be a Facebook this and so and so. No, TikTok, whatever. No, I get on TikTok and I'm like, I don't want to do this. So I'm allowing myself to be in touch with my highest self, my source, I call it guides. What do I tell it? I call it God, guides, guardians, angels, and ancestors. It's a full house. 3 G's, 2 A's. God, guides, guardian, angels, and ancestors. That's who I talk to. I'm like, God, guides, guardian, angels, and ancestors. Tell me what I'm supposed to do. But I focus on where I'm being led more above anything else, because I know that I can be that pusher that's just exhausted and I yield 0 results from that.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I'm guilty of saying yes to everything until I can't do anything well. So when I look at the cycles and the seasons, I see one of the cycles in my past that I have repeated several times, enough to now to recognize this pattern, is that I'll say yes and I'll get good at that, and I'll say yes to something else and I add it, and I'll add without subtracting anything until I get oversaturated in terms of my time, my energy, my effort. And now I'm stretched so thin that things start falling through the cracks. I'm not performing at the same level of the few things because I'm stretched that thin, and then I start to disappoint people, and I can't keep my promises, and then everything starts to crumble, and I have to go back to ground zero and rebuild. And it's in those moments I'm like, okay, what am I going to learn from this, right? But I think the point here is, to me, that I'm taking from this is remembering how important it is to allow ourselves to say no. That as Brendan Burchard even teaches, he says, when you're pushing hard and you are flowing and you've got things going, you're going to have lots of other opportunities come to you because people are attracted to what you're doing and the energy that you're pushing out. And so you get lots of invitations, and many of them will be wonderful and valid, and there's nothing wrong with them, except for adding more things to your plate may very well dilute the things that you're doing well, right? Yes, you've stretched yourself so thin that rather than having a really strong, powerful, delicious something to offer, you start to dilute it because you're pushing all the ingredients way, way too far. So he says, start with no, and then find out, is there a reason why you want to justify that? And if so, what's got to give? Because we can't just keep saying yes to everything and expect, that it's all going to work out, or that we're not going to run out of time, energy, effort, or that we're not going to hit the burnout wall. And I've done that now enough times that I think that's part of the reason why this topic even came up today, is to say, hey, Joe, recognize that part of the cycle is that you must build into your permission cycle to say no to things, even if they're good things, because too many good things is still too many, and it may well dissipate or dilute, as I said, the few things that could be extremely good or great.
Yes, I love that so much. And there's so much truth to that, right? Because if we're spread too thin, then we can't put our best self toward any one endeavor. And that's why I really try to be super intentional and present with what I am doing. So if I'm making a newsletter, I'm not going to answer the phone. Or if I'm making a video, I'm very careful. Like when I call my daughter back, who lives nearby, but we talk a lot, I'm going to call her back when I can devote to her. Otherwise, if I'm talking to her while I'm trying to do something else, I'm split screen, and I'm not getting the results I want. Yeah, for sure. There was something else I was going to say. Oh my gosh, what was it? I don't remember. So you can keep going. It'll come back.
Yeah, I love what you're talking about here. Is this dedication and intention to doing a few things really well, and doing them, putting our focus on any one of them at a time. Like you said, the old idea of split screen. I think there is a scripture in the book of James that says a double-minded person is unstable in all their ways because they don't know which way to go. So there really is something very powerful and productive of making very careful and intentional yeses, and then putting our time, energy, and effort into them one at a time in the moment, right? So that the person we're talking to feels validated and listened to and heard, and we're getting as much out of that moment as they are. And then when we're on a project, being able to block out all of the other distractions so that there's not the constant noise in the background that will rob us of the energy, the creative energy, and will, in many ways reduce the harvest of our efforts. And so it's just really great reminders to see the cycles and see, is there something that in this for me is a purposeful, and or is there something that I can learn about myself, about my patterns, my habits, which may be conditioned, which I may have inherited or have been modeled to me, that don't serve me. Maybe they served me in the past, but they no longer serve me well. And so can I take the courage, can I have the courage and the energy to course correct and say, okay, that is no longer a great decision. Saying no or saying yes to this, or making the changes or swapping these out, or just replenishing my energy is the right thing right now for the right reason.
I love that, Joseph. I want to add, and I know we're coming near the close here, that this, in regards to seasons and cycles, this striving and pushing thing that I've spoke about many times now on here never worked for me. But I want to give an example of how what I did and what did work. So there was I couldn't even tell you a year or two, three, I don't even know. It was in this house. Okay. So I don't know when that was, but it was probably 2-3 years ago. Doug and I, this is when I was doing hair still, and I was doing my coaching and all the things that I'm doing, basically working 2 jobs. And we were at lunch one day and we were sitting at the table, and I said to him, isn't it going to be nice when we can just go to lunch all the time? Midday, we're just like, hey, it's Tuesday, let's go see a movie. Hey, it's a Friday, let's go to lunch. We don't have to plan these things. It's only one day a week. And he was like, yeah. So put that aside. Did I work every day with the intention of can't wait until it's like this and I don't, I can make my own schedule and blah, blah, blah? No. I just took small and consistent steps forward, one step at a time, one day at a time, in joy, in peace, as much as I could. Believe me, along the way of entrepreneurship, we are tackling and arguing with a lot of limiting beliefs all the time. So I did my work on that. Joe, you're frozen. I don't know if you can hear me, but you're frozen. But anyway, at some point, it just came to where we were having lunch 2 or 3 times a week. And I said, do you realize that we completed this goal that we wanted, or this idea or this intention or the way we would like our life to be? And there it was. It was just, it just filtered, flew into our life like a little butterfly, because we were not keeping our eye on the goal. We just had the intention of what it is that we would like to experience. Okay, Joseph's gone. So I don't know if you guys can still hear me in here, but I will hold this. He's probably just, the StreamYard's still going for whatever reason. But my point is everything that I have, what you would call manifest, okay, manifesting in life, those times when I wanted to be some other place than I was in this moment, okay? The times that I fought against it, it felt like it was forever gone. It was never going to come back. It was taken forever. But the times that I just put it out there, made the intention, and just kept working towards the goal, but not in the means of trying to achieve something or get something now. Just, keep going, having fun, being passionate, doing my thing. The thing always, when it did come in, it just floated in like it was nothing. And this has happened several times in my life with some big things. So that's something that I remind myself of, is this season of it, quote, not being here doesn't mean it's not coming. Just keep doing you, keep your vibration high, keep doing life, keep going forward. And eventually you're going to wake up one day and you're going to look around your life, Kristen, and you're going to say, holy crap, it's here. I made it into this. Okay, Mojo's calling me. So let's see what we got here. We're going to put him on speaker.
Internet went down.
This is hysterical.
Oh, gosh. What are you seeing on your end? Am I live on your end?
I have you talking into my microphone, and this is a first. You're talking to my microphone on the StreamYard.
What in the world?
I'm still on there. Can you rejoin the meeting?
You're still on StreamYard? Let's see if I can. It's saying no internet on my part, so
something
must have happened here.
It's still, the timer's still going. This is great.
Okay. Site cannot be reached. But can you see me and hear me on StreamYard right now?
I have my phone held up to my microphone, so you are getting broadcasted, but we don't see you.
All right.
So we have 53, we're at 53, almost 54 minutes. So if you want to close up, we can do that.
Sure, yeah. So, it's funny. The life doesn't always go as we expect, but that doesn't mean we have to, to fight against it, as you said, just to accept what is and believe that there is a purpose for it, even if you can't see it in the moment. So right here, right now, happening right here. So I've lost connection on my end. And so I just want to thank anybody and everybody, including Cece, for jumping in today, listening, tuning in. If you missed the whole thing, feel free to go back and rewatch from the beginning. Lots of great perspectives on seasons and cycles of life. Thank you, Kristen, for your time and your perspective and your vulnerability, sharing with people what you've been through. to give people a perspective on what they can get through as well.
Well, it's always great to create with you, Joseph, and I was really looking forward to this episode today. And for anybody that's listening who loves MDA, like we said earlier, Stevo had a birthday for his wife today. So he's taking care of that. But we are planning on doing every other week these days,
Right.
based on just things that are going on in everybody's lives and stuff like that. So we don't want to give each other up. So we're gonna do our best to do every other week. So you can join us again in 2 weeks. I think that's the 2nd. February 2nd, if I'm correct.
Yep, looks right.
Okay. All right, you guys. Well, thanks for being here. I'm going to hit the little leave studio. Hopefully that'll end the broadcast. And we appreciate each and every one of you who watch this stream. Be sure to subscribe on whatever platform that you are watching this from, whether it's MoJOE's or Stevo's or my platform. And cross-subscribe, because we all deliver just different content in different voices. And so some people resonate more with other people, and feel free, because, you know, we're all here for everyone. We are one love. We are one collective energy. And we would love for you to join us on whatever platform that you feel comfortable doing so. So here's MoJOE on the phone, and this is so freaking funny. I love this. This is like my favorite thing this week. So wait till you see the video and you see me holding up the phone.
Oh, too funny.
Much love, everybody.
Real people. Yeah.
Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.